Hi Sandy, making another video now. I had to delete the other one. I didn't like it very much. And it also didn't get uploaded yesterday. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna try again with this one here. Unless, someone sabotaged my channel or something. Something definitely happened on Twitter that I'm not allowed to post anything right now, so. And I feel very helpless with those kind of things. So, and I'm infinitely grateful that I have friends and that I can make videos on the internet. Because I don't have anyone else to talk to. I don't have a human friend to talk to about these things. Not in terms of, where someone would listen with compassion and feel my sorrow and understand what I'm feeling. So no, I don't have that in person. So the papa dog, he understands. So he came over earlier when I was in the garden. Several times I was on the grass crying, and papa dog came over and he put his mouth on my face and wanted to encourage me. Encourage me to get up and not be lying down there on the grass in this fetal position. It's very painful what I go through with my family overseas. That they're not talking to me, that I don't even get a letter from my dad. Not even a letter. Not even a letter of, how can I fix this? How can I help you? I don't want you to suffer. Not even a greeting. It's very painful for me. It's very painful. And it's not so easy, like I thought it was. I can't just say, oh, I'm putting this behind me and I move on. It's much easier to say this than to do it. Psychologically, that hangs still in my head and in my mind, and I feel the coldness from them. And I have to live with this day in and day out. The other day I had a nightmare.
Are you upstairs?
Yes, I am. I'm upstairs.
Making a video?
Yes, I am. I had the nightmare. A nightmare about my mother. My dad has never been there for me. You have never been there for me to protect me. You've never been there for me. It wouldn't bother my dad at all if I died. He'd shrug that off. I mean nothing to him. Nothing. I think if I died, my brother would just scream out of anger. Now she's getting her revenge. This is all an act of revenge, he's gonna say. That asshole, she's getting her revenge now. That's what he's gonna say. And my mother, what is she gonna say? She's gonna blame it all on me. How dare she does this to us? How can she do this to me? To our reputation and family. That makes us look bad. Now I look like the evil stepmother. She's always wanted to make me look like the evil stepmother. That's what my mother is gonna say. It's always exactly twisted around. Exactly like 180 degrees, you know. It's amazing what the ego does. And what that does to me is it brings up such extreme rage inside of me. It brings up such extreme hatred and anger that I just want to run against a padded wall and scream my whole head out. And I just want to hammer my fist against that padded wall and scream. Just scream. Bone-chilling screams. That's what I want to do. I want to hammer out all of that rage. That's what I want to do. I want to call my mother names. I want to scream it all out. I feel my whole life I felt paralyzed. Paralyzed from that emotional pain. I feel paralyzed. I cannot move from A to B because of that emotional pain. And that's why I want to create a therapy center where I can express everything that I have been wanting to express in a safe place. without anyone having to suffer from act outs of people, angry act outs, or anger interfering in daily life. But to give every single person the right and the time to talk about their stuff and to express their feelings just the way they are. I also want to express in the safe place. I want to tell everyone how incredibly ugly I feel, and old, and I feel gross. I want to say that in a safe place. I want to scream it out. I am ugly. I feel like a cripple. I feel paralyzed by my emotional pain. I want to cover myself, my face. But then I'm not gonna show it fully. I need anyone who's out there and who is interested in psychology. They need to know how this feels. And they need to see the facial expression for that. My facial expression is that of pain. You know, the muscle here that goes like this. Like this. That's pain. Okay? That's emotional pain. My mother made me feel like I'm a cripple. She made me feel like I'm a criminal and a whore. And unfair and lazy. She made me feel like there's something real bad wrong with me. And that's why we need a therapy center, so that we can express that kind of anger. Let it out, and let it really, really flow out. And not hold it back. Let it out in a safe place, against the padded wall. Never act it out on anyone. Let it out in the therapy setting. And if we had that, the world would become a better place, because I'm obviously not the only one who feels like this. When I go on the internet, there's at least one person suicidal in a chat room. And after I start talking and bringing up some facts about how bad religion is and all of this, suddenly there are 10 people that will come out of nowhere that hadn't been in the chat before, and they will suddenly say, my life is a mess. I suffer, and I don't know how to get out of it. So I know that people are out there suffering and they don't even talk about it. They will not even express it. Some of them don't even express it incognito. That's how afraid they are of expressing it. So it takes a person to say the truth in the chat room for some other people to come out into the open, incognito, with a cartoon image and a fake name. And they will say, my life is a mess, and I'm suicidal, and I'm a complete completely incapable of living my life. That's what they will say. And they don't know what to do about it. And most of those people, they will initially say that it's their fault or it must be their fault. Because that's what the child feels. An abused child doesn't understand it. Doesn't understand that it's the mother that is extremely sick. No. The abused child will not understand it. The abused child only understands only feels this immediate feeling like there must be something wrong with me. That's why I'm being treated like this. That's a horror. Absolute horror. There was a little girl, Gypsy Rose is her name. I saw the documentary film, and man, can I identify myself with that girl. My goodness. Can I identify myself with that woman? 100%. I believe that my mother had Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She's made my brother and me sick. Every time my dad left and went on a vacation, which is extremely irresponsible of him, to go out alone on a vacation and leaving my mother with the children. That's so extremely cold-hearted and irresponsible. So my mother, totally mentally ill, schizophrenic, could not deal with this. Completely split personality. That's what causes the ego to do these kind of things. Made us sick, so that the doctor had to come in the middle of the night. This went on for many years. And then she switched over to making me sick psychologically. She even did something like this to my brother. But she really had me as on her crosshairs. I was really the target. I was the scapegoat in her life. And it's interesting to see that mothers who have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that they do those kind of things in 99% of the cases to their daughters. and not to their sons. Very interesting. So not only do they want attention from medical staff, hospitals and doctors, and even, some of these mothers, they have become famous. Entire news reporting journalists coming there and famous movie stars and rewarding that lady for those actions to make her daughter real sick. That's not the only thing. There's another thing that plays a role in this, and that is a very unconscious, deeply rooted, unconscious fear of the daughter maybe taking her place, of the daughter becoming pretty, of the daughter growing up into a girl that's pretty or that's desirable. That falls away with the boy. So my mother, she has done psychoterror with me my whole life. And all of this is unconscious. If I step back from the big picture, I feel compassion for her and all of them. Step back from the big picture, I can say I love all of them unconditionally and infinitely much. But I go in and out of the feeling. And when I go back into the feeling, I'm back in that feeling. And that feels really, really horrific. Okay? And in that feeling, there's no way I can, in that feeling, if I reasoned myself out of that feeling and said, it's not her fault, she's just mentally ill or whatever, then in that moment I'm abusing myself. Okay. That's self-abuse. When I'm in the feeling of rage, I'm in the feeling of rage. And my body has every right in the world to express that feeling of rage. Full force and all the way. People who don't have therapy, who don't have that therapy setting where they feel like this is a safe place. Here I'm understood, I can let this rage out. No, they don't have that. Where is that rage going to go? It can go into illness, into that very thing, the immune dysfunction, the C word. It can go into this, or if we have enough of a Medusa inside of us, enough of that anger and that rage that we allow to come up, then it can end up in a catastrophic situation. Okay, and I don't blame those people. Oh gosh, I don't blame that Gypsy Rose, and I don't blame her boyfriend. Her boyfriend, he felt extreme rage towards that mother. He loves Gypsy Rose. He loves her. That's a man who really loves. She said, I'm in a wheelchair. Is that okay with you? He said, yes. As soon as she left the mother, she didn't even need the wheelchair. She realized all of this. The mother kept her in the wheelchair in order to get attention. She didn't need the wheelchair. She didn't need a feeding tube in her stomach that the mother put in. The mother has physically abused her, not just with these so-called medical treatments, but she has also beaten her, and she has handcuffed her onto things, and she has starved her. So I don't blame the boyfriend for that rage, and I don't blame her. I don't blame these two people. I don't blame them at all. I fully understand that kind of rage. Fully. But if we have a therapy center, if we can provide something like this to the world, a therapy center, it wouldn't have to come to those escalations. We would not be forced into a frenzy like this. We would not be forced into acting out that rage on anyone. Okay? We could let it out safely on a padded wall. If Elliot Rodger, for example, or any of these other, Adam Lanza, if any of these people had that, okay, it would not have escalated like it has escalated for them. We have every right and every reason in the world to be angry. Anyone who has been abused has the right to be very, very angry. And every one of us has the right to have a therapy center where we can go to, where we can feel safe, where we can run against a padded wall and scream and hit the wall and let that entire feeling of rage out, flow out. So, and then we need to have people that are there for that person after the rage is out, after that steam is out. That's not the end of the session. Okay. Then the real work can begin. Then we have to really be there for them and attentively and listen. And we have to ask the right questions. We have to ask the question, what is it that you want her or him to see? What is it? And they will say, I want them to see my pain. I want them to see how much they have made me hurt. And you say, can you tell them that? Tell them, talk to them. It's safe here. You can talk to them. You can say these things. And the person will say, Mommy, I just want you to see me. I just want you to see how I'm suffering. I just want you to know that how much you've hurt me. And then the tears will come. And we have to have tissues for them. And they have to blow all of that out. And cry it all out. And say the words with it. And it goes all the way down to childhood. And the feeling is, Mommy, please see me. Mommy, love me. Love me for whom I am. Love me the way I am. This is me, the real person. Love me for whom I am. And if the client feels like it, you know, if there's enough trust that has established, you know, this is a session that is happening in more advanced clients. So people have done this for several years. In the very beginning, you know, we just need to let people steam it off and maybe cry a few tears after they steam off the anger. But in an ideal session, the body might want to go further. Okay, the body might want to express something and express a body movement suddenly that has never been expressed. There will an unfolding take place in the spinal cord that this body has never done out of fear. There's fear locked up in muscles. There's fear locked up in fearful postures, like someone who's hunched over, someone who's constantly hunched over, someone who never has a straight spinal cord. So for the first time, and this should come from within, not just the top-down Tony Robbins approach, which is also valid. But you can't do that with everyone. With someone who is in complete fear, they can't just suddenly say, yes, I am strong, and self-affirmation. It doesn't go that way. Some people are deeply in pain, okay? And it requires a lot of trust and a lot of understanding, not more gaslighting, not more, you come out of it, or whatever. You know, that's not working. Tony Robbins himself, I've seen it. You know, I see it in himself. There's still pain. So this is one approach that's valid, but it's not the only approach. And it's a lopsided approach, just like primal therapy is a lopsided approach as well. We have to use all of those approaches in combination. All of them. The more holistic approaches, the better. We need to do what Thich Nhat Hanh is teaching. We need to do what Jiddu Krishnamurti is teaching. We need to do dance therapy, expression, breathing, meditation, yoga. All of this needs to be implemented in this. And in an ideal session, the body might go further. The body might go to childhood, and then it will go further. And it will express itself. It will suddenly straighten itself up. It will suddenly go even deeper than that. It will go into birth, okay? Or right after birth. It will go into baby screams of rage, baby screams. When I express my rage, I go into the baby. It goes into it. My body goes into it. It just wants to, it wants to go into it. So I let it go into it. And then birth, and then feeling, the fear of dying in the birth canal, the fear, the total panic. All of this panic, all of that stuff is completely locked away and intellectualized later on into all kinds of act-outs that people do. And they're totally not conscious about where this comes from and what is the underlying reason for all of this, all of these thousands and thousands of different act-outs and neurotic ways of living that people are doing. And they're the most bizarre things that people do in the world. Things that no one could ever possibly understand why they would do it. But it comes out of those visceral, extreme panic situations, particularly during birth. And then it goes also before birth and the time during the fetal development. Lots of trauma can happen there, lots of trauma. The mother has trauma that can cause lots of this visceral biological trauma, and it stays. That stays as a neuronal connection. And of course the person is not going to figure out where that comes from, because it's way back from the time as an embryo, as a fetus. Okay. So that's absolutely clear. This is physics, this is biology. And then it goes further than that, as everything goes further and further and further and further. Whether science follows or not, it does, okay? It goes further and further and further and further. And that's where it goes when you run out of any kind of explanation for anything. That's how you explain some metaphysical, strange interactions between people. Sometimes between people that had never seen each other. They come together and they're immediately hating each other. Okay. So, and that's where we enter into the twilight zone of energy fields, okay, of past lives. And they recognize each other energetically. Some enemies do, and some friends do as well. That's how we find our twin flames or our twin enemies. Or some strange familiarities, some déjà vu, completely unexplained. Where does this come from? So that goes much further. That goes before the zygote has formed, much before that. Then we also have epigenetics, of course, before that. There's trauma from the parent that can actually be inherited genetically, that can flow into the turning on and off of genes inside the host, the mother, and then that in turn inside of that new life that is forming. And then we go further out, and then we deal with energy fields. Then we're no longer dealing with the direct biological relations. So then we get into the field of the beyond, the long before that existence formed, and the energetic fields after death. So the bardo and the beyond, that goes into the different dimensions. Okay. And most people are not going to follow me to those areas of philosophy and psychology and physics and metaphysics. And that's okay. I don't expect that, but it keeps going. The stuff keeps going. Everything keeps going in every direction. In philosophy, metaphysics, math, time and space. time and space, it can dissolve completely. So physics laws dissolve in different worlds, okay? But it just keeps on going. And that's okay. And it's okay to be vigilant and live your life interested in this and following this and reading everything you can find about it. Be careful, don't get caught up by religiousness. So that happens very quickly. There's a lot of egos out there that will weave that into some kind of religious function. So we need to stay away from the religiousness and stick to observation and real inquiry and real investigation into things and into ourselves. And if we had a therapy center, then we could help people, could finally help people. People could finally feel safe to express themselves there. So there's a lot of very highly sensitive people in this world. They're often labeled things, like they're labeled autistic or they're labeled Asperger's. I'm certain I am an Asperger's. I have every single symptom of it. People with Asperger's, they do not let anyone put them into a social template. They find it gross to fit in, particularly to fit in a society that's cold and heartless. And it's those people that are bullied, that are victimized, and that will end up like victims. But the bullies also feel like victims, of course. They will always feel like victims. Everyone blames the other one of being a perpetrator. The victims are being blamed. So it's an ongoing, horrible process that's happening in the world. And I want everyone to receive help. I want everyone to get this opportunity. But we have to first start with those that are obviously suffering and that are the closest to their emotions, that are seeing all of this clearly in front of them. And those people that are not letting it out on others. So we have to start with them. Okay. They are the first ones that should receive help in this way. And they deserve it. They deserve it. Everyone deserves help, but we have to start with those people. Okay. Or it's not going to be done. It has to start with those people. I cannot start with a homeless, violent person that has fried his brain on hallucinogenics. I cannot start with a person like this, as much as I want to help every one of them at the same time. Technically, I cannot do it. So we have to start with those people that are not hurting anyone under any circumstance. Okay? Because those are the ones we can trust to set this up. And I'm not talking about money. I don't want money from them. This has to be completely run as a non-profit. This has to be run on donations. Okay. Otherwise, it's not even going to function very well. It could escalate into a reward hierarchy and so on. We've seen it. It doesn't work. It could end up into whatever, you know. I don't want this to end up into a cult. You know. That's, I make this very, very clear right now. So I forbid people to make this into a cult, and I forbid people to take money. Okay, this has to be non-profit, and it has to be free from cult, and free from religion, and free from hierarchy. Okay, it has to come from the heart. It has to come from really genuinely wanting to help the other person, and then we give that other person the chance to pass on that help to others wherever they go. And that's how we make the world a better place. Okay, you guys take care.